not a fact. It's an assertion. You know,
Well, all these things.
nothing exists without a cause.
Well, hang on. The thing that you got to recognize is that all these things are assertions, right? An argument is an assertion. So when you have like the argument from motion, you're just asserting things. As a matter of fact, I had somebody tell me the other day that my argument was flawed because I didn't prove the premises. Now let's think about this. Premises are things that you assume, right? You don't have to accept them.
I think that's actually kind of sketchy, though.
No, it's not sketchy.
Aren't there premises
that prove your premises? You prove the argument by making the assumptions propositions are true, and that goes to the soundness of the argument. If it is a logically structured argument, right? If it follows some kind of rule of inference, it's like modus ponens, right? That means it's logically valid, right? So if I say something like, if the moon is made of green cheese, I'm a cow. The moon is made of green cheese, therefore I'm a cow. That is perfectly valid logically, okay? It's a logical argument, and it's perfectly valid. Right. An actual rule of inference.
Because you're saying if the moon were made of green cheese, then you would be a cow. And then you said the moon is made of green cheese, hence you are a cow. Okay.
Yeah, all that means is that the conclusion has to follow from the premises if the premises are true. That's all validity really means. But the soundness is bad because obviously the premises aren't true, right? And the moon is not made of green cheese. And I'm opposite.
That's what I thought. That's why I thought you do actually have to either deal in a premise that everyone accepts as true or prove the premise, don't you?
You don't prove the premise. You just accept the premise. If I accept that the moon is made of green cheese, then I'm a cow. You know, because that's the soundness of the argument. The premises are saying if you accept all these premises that if the moon is made of green cheese and I'm a cow, and the moon is made of green cheese, therefore I'm a cow, you're accepting those premises. But obviously, I would reject those premises. So you can have a logically valued argument that's false. The entire argument is false, clearly, because the soundness is not good, right?
Right.
Okay. So when you have premises, again, you never prove the premises. It's just like any assumption, and they are assumptions. You don't prove assumptions. That's why they're called assumptions, or presuppositions, if you want. So I thought it was really odd when somebody didn't like the argument because they didn't prove the premises. I'm like, well, why don't you tell me why you don't accept the premises? Because that's what I'm offering. I'm offering you the argument by telling you what I want you to assume for the premises. And you got to tell me why you don't assume that. Why are you rejecting the premises? That's how it works. But they don't think that way for some reason. But like the argument from motion with the first cause, we know now that the initial movement may have been caused by what's called spontaneous symmetry breaking. Right? We know now that motion is a lot more complicated than what Aquinas knew. We know that time is a lot more complicated than what Aquinas knew. And so there might be some other things. And by the way, we might have discovered a fifth force just recently.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, he didn't know about these types of things. And so to him, it made sense for a causal relationship, right? You have the regress of causality that you have something moving now, something had to have that move that, and that move that. And you have this chain of causality. And the way he described it was all motion is just changing from potentiality to actuality. And so you have a potential state, and by doing something with that potential state, you cause an actuality, you cause motion, which doesn't work in quantum mechanics. But again, these are really good arguments.
Right, but to sum it up in relation to what we were just talking about, the proofs for the Aquinas proofs. So you're basically saying that they were good for the time.
Yes.
Based on the knowledge that he was dealing with, they were excellent or really, really, really sharp, but they just don't cut mustard today.
Yeah. They're brilliant for the time. And by the way, Chaosism points it out very distinctly. He says valid and sound for deductive reasoning, cogent and weak, strong for inductive reasoning. I totally agree. There's one thing you're missing, though. I would actually add in convincing. I think a lot of people neglect that convincing aspect.
Well, that's the key. That's the key. Yeah. Okay, that's the key. Because the reason why a Christian apologist presents these is because they are supposed to be convincing, and they aren't. And there's a bunch of different reasons that they're not convincing. But that's actually the key, because you're not just trying to impress, other Christians with your cool arguments, which sometimes it seems like that's what they're trying to do. You're actually trying to question of is your revealed truth. I believe have truth. So if I'm to make an argument based on reason that I'm going to present to you, Steve, who doesn't believe me or agree with me, it's supposed to be, it's for you. It's to point you in the direction of you agreeing with my revealed truth. If it doesn't do that, there's no point in doing it. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, I do, but I think that these things were designed more for the believer. I think they were more designed for the person who already believed, not to convert the non-believer.
Right.
And especially nowadays, I got to ask my theist friends, how many people have ever really been convinced by Aquinas' 5 ways in modern times? I've never seen it happen.
I don't see how it could. I mean, maybe it could. I'm sure Stephanie will get someone with it. Does Stephanie use it? Is Stephanie there? Stephanie will get someone with it. But other than that, nobody else will. But yeah, I don't see. To me, that's not really how the whole deal goes down. But anyways, before we keep going with this, let's go back into where we were with your. So we're in the 2 years into your channel, and where are we at? 2 years into the channel. When did you meet your co-worker?
Kyle?
Yes.
Okay.
Somewhere along the way, your channel switches from you start to have a dog in the fight. Like as far as I'm understanding, you started out your channel kind of just sort of debunking young Earth creationists, but you weren't necessarily taking a position on God per se. And then you start what?
Okay, so basically, as you guys may know, I was involved in a group called the Great Debate Community for quite some time. There was my goal was to get the Great Debate Community to be kind of something that was known among YouTubers, somewhere where if you are a member of the Great Debate Community, you stood out as somebody that could articulate arguments, or at the very least, go in an argument and actually do halfway decently, right? You don't have to know this stuff, but at least have the wherewithal and the balls to go actually put your information out there. Whether you're right or wrong doesn't matter. But it takes a lot of guts to argue on air. It is not easy.
No, it's not easy.
And you're out there. You're putting stuff out there, right? Would you agree?
Yeah. So yeah, absolutely. It's a lot harder, especially it's a lot just from my own experience with it. Like what we're doing now, I like much more, just like generally chatting about the stuff. But there's a lot of different challenges that come that you don't anticipate before you do it. It's a lot harder than it looks, and keeping yourself calm and focused is 85% of the battle in some ways. Go ahead.
Yeah, and so the Great Debate Community was set up to do that. Unfortunately, there were some problems internally, some schisms. I wanted a different direction. I wanted to have a higher caliber. Other people wanted this more basal trolling, make a response video and just bag on other people. And that bored me, to be honest with you. I didn't want to do that because anybody could do that. I wanted something higher. So there was a little bit of schism, but you know what? It's fine because the Great Debate Community now is stronger than ever. We've got almost 1,700 members. We have, I would say, 50 PhDs and master's levels people. We have some of the biggest name YouTubers in the skeptic community in the Great Debate Community. But it wasn't the vehicle to take me to where I wanted to go because of some of the issues with it.
Are there Christians in the Great Debate Community?
Oh yeah, considerably not Christians. Oh yeah. Okay. Yeah, my dear friend who passed away, Jade, she was a member of the Great Debate Community. Loved it. I think Sygart is a member of the Great Debate Community. Kay is a member. Everybody in their live chat is a member of the Great Debate Community, I think. I know SJ is. So, yeah, pretty much everybody who watches these things is a member of the Great Debate Community. SJ they may not participate much, but what? Yeah, SJ is true.
How did SJ get a wrench? SJ get a wrench on your channel?
Because she was getting timed out maliciously, and I didn't think it was appropriate. And she's been on our channel many times, and I think we had to give her a little guidance, but I think she'll moderate fairly, as long as she doesn't abuse it.
Okay. I'm giving her a wrench as soon as I figure out how to do it. I have no idea how to do it. I'm giving her a wrench. Mute everybody, Stephanie. Mute anybody who says anything about me at all. Listen, it's totally positive. Mute at will. Okay, go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah. So Kyle was going to do this documentary on the Great Debate Community, and he said, "Steve, you're the kind of the host and the owner of the Great Debate Community, so I've got to get you in this documentary." He'd already talked to Brett Keane, and he talked to a few other people. But he's like, I really, really like your what you have to say. I like your videos. You're on top of things and you present things in a way that a lot of people can understand it. Because Kyle is not a science person. His expertise is like graphic design, and he's very creative. I mean, he's probably one of those creative people that I've ever met when it comes to design. I could never do anything that he does when it comes to these layouts. He's just fucking brilliant. And I didn't have that. So I mean, we started talking, and he said, you know what, we should do a podcast kind of thing, right? Forget the documentary. You know what? Let's just do a podcast. And I said, I love it. Let's jump into it. And we started the podcast, and that went over pretty successfully. As of today, we have over 100,000 downloads on our podcast.
Cool.
But he didn't really want to get into YouTube, and I was telling him, no, dude, trust me, YouTube is where it's at, because I have a lot of friends on YouTube. I know a lot of people on YouTube. I knew Arn, and I knew a bunch of other big players. I said, let's try it out. And so our first episode, we had Ken Hovind and Dr. Mays, right? On a podcast, just knocked it out of the park, right? Because Dr. Mays is a very brilliant biologist, and Kent, well, he's Kent, but he's a big name, right?
Yeah. How did you get that big of a name that quick? Were you already well known because of the Great Debate community?
Yeah. I already had some either popularity, notoriety, or whatever you want to call it from the Great Debate community. So people knew who I was because I had Aaron on my show a few times, or channel. Okay. I had Kent on before. So, I mean, I was hosting the debates with King Crocoduck and Ken Hovind long before NonSequitur. Okay. And anyway, so I realized that, look, with my contacts and my limited amount of science and things like that, and Kyle's ability to market and make graphics and all this other stuff, we have a winning formula. And we had a goal.
I got the brains, you got the looks. Let's make lots of money.
Make money.
That's great. That's a great song.
We might actually throw that on a video. So we wanted to be bigger than Drunken Peasants, and by the way, we already are. Because
are you really?
Well, they broke up, so that's we get more views than they get now because they broke up. So I by default, right? And we were on Drunken Peasants the other night. We were on. Well, we were on the.
I saw that. Wait, before you go on, what are they? Is one of them like the brother of the Amazing Atheists, or what's their?
Yeah, TJ and Scotty were brothers.
Okay, I thought so.
And friends with Ben. Where him and Ben are brothers. I don't remember. I think TJ and Scotty are brothers, don't they? I don't remember the family dynamics. But anyways, they all split up. And by the way, I liked them all. I was never a big Drunken Peasants fan to begin with, but I love TJ's monologues. I think he does some of the most exceptional on his own monologues, but I was not one of the DP crowd because I just didn't find the toilet humor any good, right? But I really liked Ben. Ben was really nice. He wasn't feeling very well, but it happens.
Right.
SJ asked who broke up. Drunken Peasants broke up. But anyways, we got together and we said, let's do the YouTube videos. So we started doing that, and that just took off. And people started liking the format because the dialogue that I had envisioned for my channel for the Great Debate community, that's what we put on NonSequitur. These dialogues. Let's have the conversations. I couldn't pull it off on my own channel. I admit that. I tried, but I failed at it. But I did try. But the plans were there, right? I had the idea. I had the concept. Kyle had the other half of that concept. And so I was like, done, And, Kyle and I don't agree upon a lot of things, but we do agree upon the main things. And that's what I think makes the show strong.
Well, you kind of innately agree on the concept of the show, as far as I can tell. You are broadcasting vision from this internal sense. You probably don't agree on wise. I think that's what you meant. You're referring to like things you don't agree with, in the theological department. But in terms of what you're putting out there, it seems to me like you're both in unison or in unity. Is that true?
You broke up there. What?
Oh, did I break up? It seems to me like you guys have agreed on the vision of the show itself. You guys are in unity in terms of what you're putting out there, what you want people to see, right?
Yes. Yeah, I think there was a demand for it. Because, again, all I saw was people just bashing on one group and and picking on the slow people.